Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jeff DeVerter. That's right, and I am the Chief Technology Evangelist, and for today's episode, the King of Cheer. That's right. Welcome to this year-end edition of Cloud Talk Live. I'm so glad that you are here. Let's get this party started. Isn't that fun? Everyone, welcome to this year-end edition, this very last episode of Cloud Talk Live. It's going to be a fun one, you know it, and I can't wait to tell you about my guest. Well, my guest is me. That's right. We're just going to share all kinds of great information with you guys here today, have a great conversation, but the only way to have a great conversation, well, is if you introduce yourself, just like Ashish did. Thank you so much, Ashish. Everybody, be like Ashish. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you are. So please go ahead and introduce yourself in the comments down below on whatever platform you are watching us on here today. And I forgot to push a little button over here. I want to do that real quick. Very good. In fact, as we go through our morning here, I go leaning left, I go leaning right to push some fancy buttons. Guys, welcome to Command Central. We'll spend a little time today walking through what some of all of this fancy business does. Oh, Pawan, thank you. Welcome to the program here today. This is really going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do some exciting stuff here today. Oh, South Wales is here. Hello, Sean. Welcome. And Deegan is here. What a year it has been, Mr. Deegan. I was just with John Deegan in Dallas last week. He lives in Chicago, but we're trying to get him to move to Dallas, be a great Texan. Deepak is here. Amit is here. Everybody grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab whatever beverage you have handy and is legal at the time zone you are watching us in. And we're going to have some fun. So, India, he even put a little link in there. Anish, thank you so much for doing that. I will click that when I'm not in the middle of a program. So in today's program, we're going to do a little behind-the-scenes tour. We're going to talk about some of the highlights from the year, which I'm really excited to share some of those. I look back through some of these guests, some incredible folks that we've had the opportunity to get to talk to. And my music stopped. I wonder why that happened. I like it when the music's on. Isn't that fun? All right, and so Travis from Vietnam, I'm so glad you're here, Travis. Thank you for introducing yourself. And so not only are we going to talk about some of the great guests that we've had here, the things that we've learned from them, some incredible men and women from all around the globe who've been here. As you know, a lot of the episodes that I've done remotely because I've spent a fair amount of time this year on the road. And so we thought we would do the tech gifts for the weary traveler. So I have some of the things that have helped me survive through the year. I can't wait to get to show those to you. And all of the things I will show you are things that I use. I had intended to have them all right here on my desk. I didn't do that, of course, but because I've been busy getting all this technical stuff ready to rock and roll for you here today. Now, what else are we going to do? I've spent, with all that travel, I've had some great time to, hey, welcome, Summer, glad you're here, or Sumer. Excuse me, to spend a lot of time reading. We're going to go through Jeff's book list, things that you might want to look into this year, and a few that are going to be very timely as we start a brand new year. And with that, let's start with, this all looks very fun and fancy over here. I'm going to push that button and turn it off. Looks very simple to have happen. Now, the same setup that I use to have these conversations with you guys each and every week is the same setup that I use to talk on my Zoom calls, in my team calls. And so with those, everybody says, hey, Jeff, why does it look so good? Well, it looks so good because I live by the simple mantra that anything worth doing is worth, well, that's right, overdoing. No, I do not just have a regular desk that I sit in front of. Let's push this button right here. But I have this desk of all of this stuff. And ultimately, it's so that I can, have a great conversation with you, and you can hear me, and you can see me here on the screen. Let me go a little bit larger with this. But here's everything that it takes to make happen. Now, of course, it all starts with the handy dandy Dell notebook. I am still very much a Windows guy when it comes to my desktop machine. But as you can see over here, there's an awful lot of Apple that lives in my ecosystem as well. But it starts with this. There are two main screens that you see that are hanging on here as well. And one of them, you may notice, is, let's use the old Zoom here. Well, that sure looks like a little bit of PowerPoint presenter mode in the background. That's right. That's actually one of the little secrets that I have here, and I've talked about it a little bit, so maybe it's not a huge secret. Let me go back to this view for 1 second, and then push this button right here. Look at that. Look at all them fancy, yeah, that's right, it's a control tower. Those fancy overlays, it's just like a fancy production team might have if I were working down at the news station. Well, you know how I'm doing it? I'll tell you how I'm doing it. I'm doing it with PowerPoint. PowerPoint, you'll see it's a big green box right there because I'm just doing green screen cropping out. So all the fades, all the everything. It's all happening because of, God bless us, PowerPoint. But it's enabled by another key piece of gear. And that piece of gear is made by the company called Blackmagic Design, the ATEM Mini Pro ISO Extreme. That's right. It has the longest, weirdest name of any piece of gear in the rig. And it's actually what is controlling all of the different video inputs here, as well as cutting out the green screen and all of that. But you may notice when I'm doing this, I'm not leaning over here and pushing buttons. That's all happening right here on my trusty Stream Deck. Now the Stream Deck is one of the most fun pieces of gear I've got here in the whole setup. And it's all these little buttons, but they're all little displays, and you can assign them to do all kinds of fun and fancy things. And those fun and fancy things are controlled by a program called Companion, by a company called BitFocus. Now, it's a free application, it's open source, you can donate to them, I have done that, and the amount of power that's there is really quite fantastic. It connects to so many different things. It connects to the Hue lights that are running things behind. Now, I don't have them programmed on the buttons yet, but it can connect to so many different things. It's really a lot of fun. Looks like a trading setup. That's right. Except, Abhishek says it looks like a trading setup. It is not a trading setup. If it was, I would be broke because I stink at trading stocks, which is why I let the professionals do it. I am not a professional. So, ultimately, that's almost everything that makes all of this happen. The one other piece of gear, a couple other pieces of gear that are involved here is this little doohickey right here. It is a fancy teleprompter, which if you know anything about teleprompters, you know that really that just means it's a piece of glass that's very reflective, that's right there. And it is reflecting this little screen that you can't see over here. My camera is directly behind it. And that allows me to look directly at my screen, to read whatever text might be there, to look at the prompts, but I'm still looking directly at you. So the teleprompter is amazing. If I were using AI and had a bunch of NVIDIA stuff here, they have some great technology that if I were looking this way, it would automatically make me look at you, but I don't have that. And of course, I've decorated the set with some fun Christmas cheer, because that's what we celebrate around these parts in the DeVerter household. But that's ultimately what makes all of this stuff happen here at the program. And I take a form of this rig when we go on the road. If I'm just out seeing customers, maybe it's definitely going to be a lot smaller. And sometimes I just take a fancy camera and a great microphone. We're going to talk about those microphones later. And but if we're at a big conference where I'm doing interviews, then I've got a portable rig of this, that goes along on the show. So that's a lot of fun. So that's everything that makes this all happen here. Now there are some cameras involved. The one I'm looking at right now is a Fujifilm X-T3 with a 50mm lens on it, so it's nice and bright and allows it to work well when the lighting's not so great. And then there's a fancy Canon over my right shoulder that I was using from the over-the-shoulder shot right there. And that's some of the new gear that we've acquired here at Rackspace for the program. So that's all the gear that makes this stuff happen. Now, of course, this episode, as well as all of them, will be made available on the podcast. Now, that podcast is called Cloud Talk, and it can be found anywhere where podcasts are found. So if you're a Spotify person, you're Google Play, you're Apple, Amazon Music. I use Overcast. I love the Overcast player, but you can subscribe, and all of this content shows up over there. Now, this episode may be a little weird as I talk about the visuals in an audio podcast, but it'll still be there. A little editing to do before I disappear for the end of the year. But speaking of the end of the year, what a year it has been. Now, we do this program, as you know, good, loyal, and faithful watchers and listeners that we do this show every Tuesday-ish morning, sometimes Thursdays like this week. Sometimes there's more than one episode a week. Sometimes we have to miss a week. But oh, crud, that was a fancy, oh man, I got great graphics. Wait a minute. There we go. Across the process of this year, we've had some incredible folks on this program, men and women from all around the country, all around the world. I'm looking at Confidence Stavler there. She right there. Amazing woman in Africa, named one of the leading cybersecurity ladies in the world. So not just really smart at the technology, but dedicated to her continent of Africa. Leads and her gender in helping grow them up in their ability to have meaningful careers. She has got a cybersecurity institute that these women are a part of. Pretty incredible stuff. I think about Adriana Bustamante, who was on even just last week with Hannah, talking about some incredible transformation happening in private cloud across the globe. Matt Puccio, who shows up once or twice a year here from Rackspace, who will talk about all things cloud native development, containers, some incredible stuff. You know, I think it's interesting. Matt is one of these people who has this very detailed technical career, but comes from a design and art background. Pretty amazing stuff. Hey, the professor's here. Glad that you're here today to wind this up with us. We had Greg Ostrowski from our good friends over at App Dynamics on. Keith was on a couple of times, but he's not on the slide. Oh, Kobe Phillips was on. And Kobe is from one of our amazing channel partners called Teleris. We have a few what are called TSDs that we are super tight with, and Teleris is one of them, and we're glad to have it. And then, of course, we had the amazing David Lithicum on last year as well. And if you are, if you follow cloud transformation in any fit or fashion, then David's a name that should be very common to you. Now, when we began this program last year, in our third year, this is, I think, our third year to do this. Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong. We led off the year with somebody that I met on LinkedIn. I saw a post of his in October of 22, and I reached out to Seth and I said, Seth, this is a story worth telling. Now, Seth is not a developer. Seth is not a cloud native transformation engineer. He is not an AWS architect. He is not a cybersecurity genius. Seth is a videographer, and an amazing videographer at that. This is a name you want to write down. Seth Ezekiel West, and his company is called Next Wave Media, and I'd love for you. I got to stop. Yes. Hang on. Let me tell this story first. Then we'll talk about the little yellow tractor. But Seth really was at a career crossroads. He tried working in tech. He did a few other things, and what he realized his passion was around telling stories through video. And he talked about how he transformed his life from getting laid off, sitting around playing Xbox, and then taking control of his future, doubling down in his investment in himself, not only in the gear that he would need to do that, but also the education to do the things on his own. We're not talking 4-year degree here. We're talking hardcore boot camp video stuff. And now he does some amazing work with some of the most impressive outdoor brands in the industry, shooting content for them. And it's really some amazing stuff. So I was really inspired by Seth this year and what he was able to do with his career. And I think it's a lesson that we can all take as we head into 2024, and that is, what will this year be for you? Now, we all have corporate overlords. We call them bosses, people who care for us in our daily adventures in our own careers, but there is nobody in this world who is as focused on making sure that you are successful as you. So my challenge for you, and we're going to get to this a little bit when we get into Jeff's favorite reading in my reading list, and that is, how will you take command of your future in 2024, like Seth did? All right. What else was inspiring this past year? I'll tell you what was inspiring. The amount of amazing women that were on the show. When I was doing that fancy graphic overlay, I was really pleased to see that there were so many women. In fact, almost half of our guests have been women over the course of this year. And in previous years, we really work hard to make sure that that happens. We find that as time goes on, in a lot of ways, we don't have to work that hard at it. We're just looking for the smartest people we can find in the industry. And oftentimes, they're women in tech. Isn't that fantastic? Now, If you watched last week's episode when I was talking to Adriana, I had cited some examples that while the workforce is made up largely, and this is all workforce globally, of women, about 50% of them, a little over 50% are women. When we get to technology, that number drops to about 27%. So there is a lot of ways to go for women to be a larger part, and they bring such a creative viewpoint to technology and challenges and solutions. It is a delight to get to work with all the amazing women that I get to here at Rackspace and our partners and our customers. But shout out to the great women in tech. All right, what else was inspiring this year? We have some amazing partners here at Rackspace, and among the largest of them are the hyperscale cloud providers. And each one of them, of course, had their big conferences for the year, and it was led off. Conference season for the cloud providers was led off in August? Yes, August, with Google at the Google Next conference. And then there was Microsoft Ignite at the beginning of November. And then the end of November, heading into December, was AWS reInvent, hanging out with 65,000 of my closest and dearest friends. These conferences were really quite amazing. Now, I attended the first and last. I attended Google and reInvents in person. I did not get to go to the Ignite conference, but I did get to sit and block my calendar and watch all of the keynotes and did some keynote reactions, the key things you want to pay attention to. Now, of course, we all know that the big technology that blew out this year was artificial intelligence, and that was no mistake. You know, these about this time last year, in fact, just about a week or two before where we are now, was the anniversary of when ChatGPT was really released en masse out to the world, and with that came the realization that individuals could ask questions of data, whether that was corpus of data was of the internet at large, or we got really interested in through the year how to ask questions of our own company's data and get meaningful answers. Taking this thing that has been a scary part of movies over the past several decades to really becoming our virtual assistants inside of our organizations. And more, these companies, Google, Microsoft, AWS, in the order that their conferences happen, not in any particular order other than that, have brought some amazing technologies to the world. Now, paired with that, of course, I have to brag about Rackspace a little because we started very early in the year. Our CTO and president, Srini Kaushik, realized that to be a day late to AI and helping companies transform is to lose. And we have not been a day late. We have an incredible offering here at Rackspace called the Foundry for AI at Rackspace of helping bring responsible AI to organizations to help AI be symbiotic, sit next to individuals and help them be more successful, whether that is a general information worker, somebody in HR, somebody in legal, somebody in procurement. Any of these organizations or these departments are now reaping the benefits of things that we have actually delivered here at Rackspace. Quite proud of the work that Srini and the entire Project Sirius team here at Rackspace have been able to deliver. If you're interested in learning more, just head over to fair.rackspace.com and you can learn all that we have to offer there. And it's going to be an incredible place to hang out next year. We started these live streams, started them in October, of AI, bringing cross-industry experts. You're going to want to check those things out. I think our next one, Daniel, if you wouldn't mind checking the schedule, maybe either January 10th or 17th. There's a little fluctuation there. So we'll make sure that you know. All right. So that was another piece that was inspiring, what our partners have brought to market. Daniel Gibson does say, producer Daniel, for the win, January 10th. Mark your calendars for that next cross-functional event. Now, I did just brag a little bit about what our partners on the hyperscale clouds are doing, but of course we'd be nowhere in this industry without the power that Dell and VMware bring to market. They're incredible partners of Rackspace. They are the foundation, a big part of the foundation of private clouds that are running globally. Rackspace is really doubling down also with what we're doing with OpenStack, but I mean, my hat's off to the innovation of what Dell and VMware are bringing to market as well. All right, now I mentioned earlier, by the way, if you have any questions, comments, feel free to pop them in. Somebody did call this out. Let's go back to desk view, and I love that somebody's paying really close attention. There it is. There it is. There it is. The little yellow tractor. This tractor sits on my desk every single day. You see, I've got a little bit of Texas land that I have the opportunity to help get to restore back to its native, the way it was intended before some of these invasive tree species came in. Don't get me started. And when we got that place, I kept telling my wife, I really want a tractor. I really want a tractor. Well, holiday season, Christmas came around, which is what we celebrate, and she got me a tractor. That's right, this little yellow tractor. Thank you, Michelle, for my little yellow tractor. All right, so let's now talk about, boom, that button is on. Let's talk about some of the tech that has helped me survive this year of travel. And so that's right, it's Jeff's travel tech. So the first piece that really I wouldn't have been able to survive without, as I think about light traveling, which is part of one of my hobbies now, is how do I travel with as little as possible, is an Anker Prime 100-watt GAN wall charger. I love this charger. The little prongs fold down, makes it easy to travel. I meant to have it on my desk and show you, but I didn't bring it up here. It's about yay long. And it has 3 outputs. It has 2 USB-C and 1 USB-A, and it can plug in. It's got to balance the power across all of those, but you can get 100 watts coming out of that top USB-C, or in this case, bottom one, as you look at it. Very powerful. Now, where would you be when you travel if it weren't for, wait for it, the battery? Now, I love the Anker batteries. They are the killer. In fact, there's a little light over my head right now being powered by another Anker battery. That's right. But this one's really cool, 20,000 milliamp power. That means it will charge an current iPhone, about 3.5 times. It'll charge up a MacBook Pro. Pretty powerful little device, and it's got a screen on. You can see how much power is being drawn and how much power is left in it. Super powerful little device. Now also, the DJI Osmo 5 is in my travel toolkit. Folds up nice and small into a little carrying case, a little soft plush sort of carrying case that makes it easy to pull out. I strap the iPhone onto there. I can film people with a nice steady hand, or I can spin it around. It'll spin easily, and film myself on location. Used it ridiculous amount of time through the year. Now that is half of the equation. Video is half the equation, but where would you be with video if you didn't have great audio? Again, I lean to DJI. They have a set of portable mics. You can see them here that come in a charging box. I think this whole thing is about $270, $225, somewhere around there. Pretty cheap, but that little mic can clip right on. It still is visible, which is why I like to pair it with a Rode lavalier microphone, because you can do that with these devices. They record on the device, like 8 hours of battery time. I can run with those things all day long. Really powerful kit. So when I have these in my bag, and they always travel with me in my bag, you know, they take up just a super small amount of space. They're in my backpack. Doesn't matter the trip I'm going on, always be ready. All right, so that's a key part of what I had. So that's really, you know, when I think about what I travel with every day, what keeps things running, it really does get back to that. A couple things that didn't make the list that I would put on here is if it's a quicker trip, I can just travel with an iPad Pro. I will use that as the main travel gear, won't even bring the laptop along. If I'm doing a live stream from the road, I will bring the laptop. Now with an update to the iPad OS, you can now plug in external mics and cameras and that sort of stuff. Dana hasn't quite let me just go to that one yet, but we'll see about next year. I'll travel, how light I can travel with that stuff. All right, what else is interesting as we get year end? Well, it would be my reading list. So, what should you be reading this year? Because all of these things, these books, I would recommend you spend some time with. And they go from historical fiction-ish sort of stuff, and to self-improvement, as well as fiction. So I've got an example in all of these areas. And it starts with actually the last book that I read, and that is called The Mysterious Case of Rudolf Diesel. If that last name of Rudolf Diesel sounds familiar, it should. Rudolf Diesel is the inventor of the diesel engine. And it's a fascinating story. I had no idea. You see, when he started all of this back in the late 1800s, the primary method of power was steam, and steam was inefficient. It was dirty. It was challenging. So, post the reading list. Yes, I will do that. I will post the reading list. I didn't write it down, but I will post it. And I'll make a post on, follow me. If you're not following me on LinkedIn, please do that, because I will post this reading list there. as well as all the other gear, and I'm not an affiliate, so I don't get any money, but I'll post them there. All right, so Rudolf Diesel, killer story. And if you know anything about him, you know that in just before World War I broke out, he supposedly died by committing suicide, jumping off of a boat transporting across the English Channel. Now, I say supposedly. This book is going to unpack that for you. Fascinating story of the invention of this engine and what it's actually able to do, and the numbers of the actual metrics of all of the things that are transported and this engine is used for today that this one man introduced. Fascinating story. Hope you'll check it out. All right, what else is on the reading list? Let's go. Oh, more in the history fashion. This one's called Chaos. Charlie Manson and the CIA and the secret history of the 60s. You know, we know the Manson story by what was put out, but there was so much that was going on in the 60s here in the U.S. This was a really good read. Now, when I say read, for Jeff, in a lot of cases it means a listen. This was a listen. With all of the travel, audiobooks are a great way for me to bide the time in airports, on planes, in Ubers, and so forth, or exercising in the new locations. But this was a listen, and so it's funny when I bring these up, it flashes me back to where I was, what airports I was in, what airport meal I was having, and these sorts of things. But that's a really interesting book. Freaked me out a little bit in the beginning, but I would recommend you check that one out. Now, in the fiction world, Andy Weir put out a book called Project Hail Mary. Oh my gosh, if there's a book I would reread, it was this one. It was so entertaining. By the way, I was going to Salt Lake City when I was listening to most of this book. And I really did binge it on that trip. But Andy Weir, you may know, as the guy who wrote The Martian. That was his first book. Really interesting story, Andy Weir. He was a tech guy, you know, sysadmin type person. And he started an online, or a blog at the time, and he started a serial of articles that ultimately became the book we know as The Martian, which became the movie. He's written another book in between. It was called Project Artemis, which was good, but it wasn't Project Hail Mary. Go check this one out. I really hope they make a movie out of this one. Some killer CGI that would be required. The way he tells the story and he unveils some stuff right in the middle. You're going to love it. All right, now let's talk self-improvement, and it is, I got two books for you here. The first one is by the guy who has the best name in the world, Diego Forte. I really need to meet this guy. But he has a book here called Building a Second Brain. And what it ultimately does is it talks about systems you can put in place with the tools you already have in your pocket or on your desk to help you remember the stuff. Because for what it's worth, our brains can only hold so much. Some people more than others. Mine seems to be losing more than it's gaining. But because every time something goes in, something comes out. But when you build a second brain that is accessible and is a system that you know and understand, all of that information is accessible. So you don't have to remember it. And when you're not trying to cram everything into your head and remember it, it leaves you time to be more creative and do what you do better. So go check out this book, Building a Second Brain by Diego Forte. Good book. Also, now this is the book I would actually recommend you start reading right now as we head towards 2024. And if you have already read it, maybe reskim it. And it's a book by James Clear, and it's called Atomic Habits. Ultimately, it's about how you make tiny changes to have remarkable results. So go check this book out. It is a really good book. Ashish, I'm glad we have the same problem with our brains. But really, where the nut of it is that to be where you want to be at the end of 2024 is really could be a Herculean effort, especially if you started it in December of 2024. But if you start making incremental changes, 1% better every single day, 1% change every day, change one thing, one little mode, then by the end of the year, that is a cascading impact. So go check out the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. 15 million copies sold. Let's make it 16 with this audience. Let's make him some money. Again, I do not have affiliate links. I do not benefit in any way from any of these. All right, that's the reading list. I will post this as an article over on LinkedIn. So if you're not already following me on LinkedIn, just go find me there. I'd love to have more friends. All right. So what a year it has been, my friends, with all of those guests, with doing this every single week, as well as a whole bunch of episodes that happen when I go to those conferences. There was a bunch of lives, especially that happened at Google Next. We started to get a little smarter once we got out to reInvent. There's a lot of content you haven't seen yet, and that's going to start to slow drip even starting the beginning of next week. Some incredible interviews out at AWS. So make sure you're following, stay close to the Rackspace page. LinkedIn ID. Well, you know my name. Let's put it up on the screen, Daniel. You can do it. It's Jeff DeVerter. So the LinkedIn ID is just my first initial, last name, J. DeVerter. Thank you. And by the way, yes, I am the king of cheer for the day. So J. DeVerter over on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn/in/J. DeVerter. If I was a smart person, Daniel, we would have a QR code for this. And, Gracie, thank you so much for that encouragement. It has been a great year. And folks, Gracie has just commented here. Look at Gracie's profile. Gracie is, and she doesn't get a lot of press around here. Daniel and Megan get a lot of it, but Gracie really is the organizational, queen that makes all of this stuff ultimately happen from a funding point of view, from a personnel point of view, the technology, whenever, especially whenever we need a credit card swiped. Gracie's our very best friend. But she has really been an amazing proponent and catalyst for everything that's happened. And as you know, we do these quarterly research. We just talked about that research that we just did in Q4 last week. We've got a huge summit coming up next month on the 30th. Isn't that right, Daniel? Did we choose the 30th? But all of that project management of all of that stuff and the coordination of it all for creating those is, there we go. Was done by Gracie. So Gracie, thank you so much. Daniel, you have been a godsend this year, sitting behind the desk, I think 99% of the time, producing these things, making it all happen. I'm not sure where you're sitting today. Do you feel like coming online? Do you? Do you feel like coming online? If you do, you can. I'd love for you to get to wave to the peoples, but you're also not at the home front. So huge thanks to Daniel. And folks, you see those fancy graphics that happen down below. If you've seen the ads that show up every week on LinkedIn that talk about what we're going to do here on the show, if you've seen the events, well, that all happens because of the amazing Megan Fleming Fretz, who would normally be here, but she and her husband just bought a new house and they are moving today. So while we're happy for them, we're even more happy that we're not helping her move. When you own a truck, you get a lot of friends. All right. So everyone, I want to thank you for being a part of this amazing year. And I'm excited to say we have an even better one coming up in 2022. I have a new partner in crime with all of this video stuff, Chris Coburn, and he and I have helped with the Rackspace Invest. I talked about camera stuff, this new fancy Canon as part of his brainchild. But the program is going to look and sound even better, especially when we're on the road. And I'll also do a little bit more behind the scenes. I'm going to show you how we edit some of these things. A lot of that's happening on an iPad Pro these days, whether that's the video work or the podcasts. I'll do some episodes, probably just some things I'll post online for you to see there. The guests for next year, stellar. I've got some pretty high wish lists as well. We'll see if some of those come together. Maybe some CEOs of some fancy cloud companies will show up. But that's if the live streaming gods are aligned with us. All right. So everyone, thank you so much for being a part of this year. If you are a Racker, thank you so much for being. You guys have shown up in spades this year, especially my friends over in India, and of course my friend Soren, who now just shows up from Germany. If I could read, that would be even better. Folks, I hope you have some downtime over this December. I don't know which holidays you're celebrating or what part of the world that you are in. But one thing I do hope for each of you is that this next year is inspiring, that you get some rest over these next couple of weeks, that you are rejuvenated, that you help bring a little bit more peace into this world and a little bit more encouragement and enlightenment into this world. You each play a big part. Remember that Atomic Habits bit? Remember where I talked about if you can just be 1% better every single day, then you as an individual will be better at the end of the year. Well, here's the challenge. How do we as humans be a little bit better to each other? How do we as humans be a little bit more encouraging, a little bit more helpful, a little bit more, lend a helping hand as a little bit, and give people, here's a good one, a little bit more grace, especially those that are posting online. Maybe not starting with a flame, maybe giving folks the benefit of the doubt. I'm thinking that if we all did a little bit of that by the end of 2024, our little corner of the internet might look a little bit more cheery. And we'll be there to celebrate it with you. Everyone, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, rest of your week, rest of your year. And I will see you when we come back. Daniel, when are we back? I don't know when we're back. I think the 8th, 7th, 8th. Let's see if we go live. It's the 9th. We're back on the 9th. I'll see you next year, folks. Have an amazing rest of your year. For Cloud Talk Live here at Rackspace Technology, for Daniel, for Megan, for Gracie, for Casey, who's on her way out as our CMO. We're getting a brand new fancy one sometime soon. We're so grateful for everyone's contribution here today. Thanks, everyone. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you next year.